welcome to Olsem Wanem. Culture is something that is valuable to many people in the Pacific region. It is something that we hold close to our hearts. It is our way of life that has been passed on from generation to generation, and it is an important source of identity. However, in some areas, some culture and tradition are slowly dying. We now feature the story of a woman inspired to carve among men to preserve culture. New Caledonia, located southwest of the Pacific Ocean and east of Australia. It is classified as an overseas territory under France. Therefore, the official language is of course French. We caught up with the New Caledonian delegates who participated in the Melanesian Arts Festival. Over 200 members came to showcase their art and culture. They came from all three provinces of New Caledonia: North Province, South Province, and Loyalty Island Province. New Caledonians are traditionally known as the Kanak people. The Kanak culture is shown and expressed through different forms of art. Carving is one of them. New Caledonia is certainly quite famous for its magnificent carvings. This group of carvers were proud to showcase their traditional art during the Melanesian Arts and Culture Festival. However, it wasn't only their carving that grabbed our attention. Among this group of male carvers, we found a woman carving away alongside her male counterparts. Juanita from the northern province of New Caledonia tells us that it is not traditional for women to carve, but she has been inspired by her father and brothers to carve wood.
Donc c'est vrai que c'est un espace qui est réservé aux hommes, mais c'est vrai que cette motivation m'est née de l'année 2008. Et ce que je voudrais souligner, c'est que dans mon environnement, voilà, j'ai l'habitude de bourlinguer avec des artistes sculpteurs de mon côté paternel, de mon côté maternel.
She tells us that she was inspired to carve by the men in her family, as well as the natural environment, and started carving in 2008. Juanita tells us that carving is traditionally done by men, and with her participation, well, not all men are comfortable with having a woman carve.
Pour être franche, d'autres me considèrent d'une des leurs, d'autres me montrent aussi une certaine jalousie par rapport à ce que je fais. Donc, très bien apprécié de d'autres, très mal apprécié de d'autres.
Apart from carving wood, stone carvings are also popular. Jean-Paul Toibat from the northern province of New Caledonia showcases his stone carvings. The stone carvings are carved from jade or serpentinite. He presents his stone carvings in the form of ceremonial axes or war tools to showcase his clan's strength and power.
Ben moi, les symboles, ben voilà, il y a un peu kanak et il y a des chefs.
About the time to carve all those objects, it's about 10 a day. I can carve 10 objects in a day, and the symbol is about the war tools, axes. That is to symbolize the cultural center Jean-Marie Chibao. So that is what I show in my stone carving.
Jean tells us that he learned to carve from his cousin. He said it is important to share the knowledge of culture and tradition lest it dies out forever.
C'est un frère qui m'a appris.
Basket weaving is a well-known tradition in New Caledonia and has been taught from generation to generation. Meet Myra, who tells us her story of basket weaving. Despite the European influence in culture and traditions, New Caledonian women still have the power to maintain their traditions. Basket weaving is one of the main identities women have passed down generations. We caught up with Myra from the South Province during the Arts Festival, where she showed her weaving skills that attracted people who visited the New Caledonian stall. She told us that her mother taught her the art of weaving.
Elle tresse, parce que j'enseigne les enfants à l'école aussi. Je fais le tressage à l'école. J'enseigne les enfants.
She said the young girl still weaving, and she teach in primary school for the children 7 to 10 years old to weaving, and she said they are very interesting in weaving.
The young girls in New Caledonia still weave, and she teaches girls the ages of 7 to 10 years old in school, because she believes that the art of weaving must be taught to younger girls, as it is an important cultural value that must be passed on.
Non, ils commencent à perdre la façon de tresser, le tressage, l'artisanat. Ils sont pas très.
The weaving, it's like starting to die, because when she learned to the young school children, they go back to their home and they learn to their mom how to weave.
She also told us she was having a great time during the festival, as the people in our country look so much like the Kanaks in New Caledonia.
Je suis très très satisfaite que je suis Papouasie, Nouvelle-Guinée, de fouler la terre de Papouasie. Et hier j'étais au bord de mer. On dirait que j'étais chez moi au bord de mer parce que j'habite au bord de mer. Oh, j'étais très...
She said she's really satisfied and happy to be here. And yesterday she was walking near the sea because she lived near the sea, and she was feeling like at home. And the people here look like people from Kanaki. She said she's...
Papua New Guinea faces many development issues in health, education, road infrastructure, and many more. The Consultative Implementation and Monitoring Council, also known as CIMC, conducted a National Development Forum in Port Moresby. This forum saw the participation of private sectors, the civil society, and the government. This forum enabled feedback and consultation on important development policies, which are then presented on the floor of Parliament. Papua New Guinea's development issues are seen in various areas. Shortage of medical drugs,
tomorrow morning 6 1 6 7 up tomorrow 6 morning 6 7 1
Okay, can someone read me the
Overcrowding in schools, road infrastructure, and sexual violence, to name a few. Well, the good news is we are able to address development issues and policies through the National Development Forum. The Consultative Implementation and Monitoring Council, or CIMC, organizes a National Development Forum annually to create an avenue for feedback and consultation between the civil society, the private sectors, and the government on important development policies.
CIMC was established in 1998, so it's now 16 years old. And over that period, it's held 4 regional forums every year and a usually 3-day National Development Forum, together with 8 or 9 sector committee meetings occurring roughly on a quarterly basis on economic, social, through to critical issues, including family and sexual violence.
The forums provide opportunities for public education on important policies, allows government to obtain feedback from the public to design or reconsider existing policies. It also allows authorities to come out and explain their position and the functions of the offices they manage.
The outcomes from the forums are very much a reflection, however, of communities' priorities from around the country, including community-level leadership, so that a lot of participation from LLG presidents and so on in the forums, but also a lot of participation from government officials and other players during the forums themselves. Not so much from many politicians, unfortunately.
But we have to demand standards. Goes back to leadership. You must demand standards in leadership as well. Your leaders must meet a certain standard. They must be specifically leaders before they're in parliament. We have a lot of politicians, but we don't have too many leaders. It's a big difference. You need to know that.
Despite the lack of participation by many politicians, key recommendations and initiatives have been developed over the years, such as the National Roads Authority, National Anti-Corruption Alliance, which is now subsumed into the Task Force Sweep, National Working Group on Impediments Committee, and the Family Support Centers, which are established in major hospitals throughout the country. We attended the 2014 National Development Forum to highlight upcoming development issues. One key concern raised was on leadership.
There's a saying, people get the leaders they deserve. People get the government they deserve. So 5 minutes you may drink beer, kaya lang flaps na hamas na sing na. 5 years, 5 minutes me pla hamas, 5 years me plaksin time. Abiyan me pla complain na, bola social media na, newspaper na, radio na, sakay leader na, rausin na, cheti mem na. Usay puti mem go inside la.
I see you as one of the governors that really taking proactive approaches. And this is 21st century, and as a young man, I would like to, through you, ask you, in the parliament, can NEC, with our leaders, come up with a policy that can we have a policy or a method where they can screen the leaders? Whoever want to contest, there must be some criteria, because this is a civil society where we come to. We talk about the leadership. This is 21st century. In PNC, leadership is a true problem. Can we have criteria to select leaders to become the MP?
As well as rural implementation of policies.
When it comes to provincial level, when we talk about rural implementation, especially bringing implementation to the rural areas, it is not an easy task, because having one thing in the budget, actual appropriation and actual release is two different things. The struggle is to get your proposals or projects to be appropriated in the budget, and the next struggle starts like to get those funds actually to the province. There are two different things. I can't be proud that just because it is appropriated in the budget that everything is going to be all right. And it is now already, Minister, it's in July. We are still struggling to get what was actually appropriated in our budget, and we are going towards the end of the year. By the time
I want to tell you that we are all engaged in one activity, and we are all determined to take this country forward. And we are all very concerned in terms of how we are going, and we all need to improve a lot. At the same time, we should understand what our government is doing and trying to do, and also acknowledge that. But of course, we need to improve a lot, and the implementation process in general is too slow.
Welcome back. We now highlight other issues that were addressed in the National Development Forum. This includes agriculture and road infrastructure. People with disabilities also had the opportunity to raise their concerns.
A lot of the issues that we have been talking about in terms of the challenges in developing agriculture are issues that have been preached by many, many different people at different forums in different areas on many occasions. And today, I do so again. From the outset, let me state very clearly that agriculture sector is one of the key players in our GDP, gross domestic product growth of this country. And therefore, its performance or non-performance has a significant bearing also on the growth of our GDP, as well as the livelihood of all the Papua New Guineans.
Over 80% of Papua New Guineans depend on agriculture for their livelihood. However, little attention is given to this sector, thus having an impact on people's livelihood. During the National Development Forum, Chairman of Rural Industries Council, Mr. Brownby, called on the government and private sectors to build partnership to empower people in the agriculture sector.
We must concentrate on agriculture. This year, I think it was last month, the same statement was made again. Now, when that message is very clear, it's a very clear kind of appeal. LNG, we are experiencing real growth, very, very big growth of revenue inflows from the LNG, and we already said that we are going to experience about a 21% growth of our GDP. Fine. That GDP is driven by this massive inflow of revenue from LNG. When that washes away, you go back to where you're supposed to come from. And what's going to happen? Your agriculture is falling, your unemployment is going up, your nutrition status is going the other way. We have a problem.
We also take a look at one of the key challenges in development, which are the roads and public infrastructures.
Somebody said when they were trying to do consultation on Vision 2050, he said in telephone, he said, hey, listen, just give us roads and maybe services, it will follow. I think that is the reality that we live today. Papua New Guinea, we say the people own the land. So in the difficult terrains of Papua New Guinea, there are people, pockets of people sleeping everywhere. The challenge that we face today as a transport sector and the infrastructure delivering agencies is what do we do? Do we bring the people to the service or do we bring the service to the people? You know, people live on the homeland, so there is a huge challenge your government is actually looking at to delivering service. PNG in national roads, we have around 8,700 kilometers of national roads. And we reclassify those roads so that we can prioritize resources. And we say priority national roads, it's 4,200. And 4,400 is a non-priority. And 65% of these national roads have actually failed or in poor condition. And that actually means that we could have to rehabilitate or reconstruct to actually bring this to good condition.
80% of the provincial and district roads are in poor conditions, and 65% of the roads in the country have failed. With the country's geographical rough and rugged terrains, it is a big challenge to our engineers and architects.
Costings. Somebody told me this before I sit down. I'm actually managing the Highlands Highway redevelopment. I got criticized for overcosting in designing the Lei Najab. And I said, well, okay, you tell me what is the real cost to do Lei Najab. Lei Najab, by whole record, it actually floats on water and water comes down. It makes an engineer it gives the biggest challenge to an engineer. That is why that's why we have moved into doing Lei City roads by concrete. It still remains a challenge. Now, one contractor came to me and said, John, why do you need to do this? Now I'm talking about sustainability. Now, why do you need to propose this when it's already an acceptable practice to build house with sticks? When it's already an acceptable practice to build road today, and if it collapses tomorrow, or in 5 years or 3 years, it's an acceptable culture in PNG. Why do you want to change it? It's stupid. How you invest millions of kina, it must sustain. It must stand and continue to sustain and grow the economy of a country.
There was also emphasis put on the usage of rural airstrips for service delivery.
But there's only about 300 of those that are usable now. The rest have been closed, some for some time. And they're continuing to close at a rate of about 25 to 50 airstrips a year. So we're all about trying to arrest that closure rate and to ensure that rural communities continue to have a service. So the concept for the Rural Airstrip Agency came out of a CIMC Rural Development Forum in March last year. An NEC decision was passed in September 2014, giving, I guess, a head of power to the Rural Airstrip Agency as a transition body to establishing a government authority. That was passed in September last year, and Minister Abel and Minister Marape and Minister Davis Stevens, the Minister for Civil Aviation, were all strong supporters of this, and without them we probably would not have got that NEC decision through, so thank you. And then there was a memorandum of agreement signed between RAA and the PNG government in October 2013 at another CIMC meeting, and that paved the way for some transition of funding to the organisation. It's a five-year memorandum of agreement with a transitionary clause to an authority. And the first instalment of funding was received in January of this year. So there was 6 million allocated in the 2013 budget. Of that, we got 3.5 allocated in January of this year. So we are up and running now.
And that's all we have time for on this week's episode. Thank you to all who have participated. Next week, we take a look at challenges in the PNG music industry. If you have any comments or stories you would like to share, please visit us on our Facebook page or contact us via the address on your screen. For now, enjoy the rest of your viewing on your #1 station, MTV.